Hi everybody, Cameron Ellis here with another tutorial on WSV 3. In today's video I'm going to be talking about how to make a drop shadow layer that goes underneath of the customized counties map. Now to my current understanding, I don't believe you can actually make the drop shadow layer inside of WSV 3 and or implement it even if you make it outside of the program, which is what we will be doing today. If that is incorrect, feel free to correct me on that in the comments. So for today's video, the first thing that you're going to want to make sure you have is a customized counties map as you see here on the screen. If you have not done that yet, you'll want to do that, and if you need a tutorial on that, I have a link down in the description of the previous tutorial that I've done about that goes step by step. So please check that out, and then come on back over here and go through this one, and you'll be able to complete this one. So the first thing that we're going to need is we're going to either need a program called Adobe Photoshop, or you could also use a program called Gimp. Gimp is going to be your free option, and you can download that at gimp.org, or if you want to use Adobe Photoshop, that one does cost. And you can just go to adobe.com and obtain that program. Overall, you're just going to want to make sure you have a photo editing program that will allow for multiple layers. And what I mean by that is you do have each object on the screen is a layer. So as you saw, I just blinked the state lines, so that's a layer. We then have the county lines, that's a separate layer. We have the drop shadow, that's a separate layer, and then the background is also a separate layer. So the first thing we're going to want to do as we get started on this is we will want to go into program settings on WSV3. We can get there by going to WSV3 at the top of the left part of the screen, and then program settings, or on your keyboard you could just hit Control and O at the same time. And then we'll go to GIS system and then shape file layers. And then we want to find the file that is the state lines. That one is the one that ends with S_11 AU16.shp. You'll click on that, and then you'll go to where it says on, and we're going to turn it off. So now you should just see the county lines. So then we're going to X out of there and make sure that's applied, and then we're going to go up to the top right of the screen where it says background, GIS, both, and none. We're going to hit GIS. Then we want to capture an image of that map, and I would recommend putting it in a folder on the desktop, or just on the desktop alone, or just somewhere where you can easily find it, and then save that. And then now we want to get just the state lines, so we're going to go back into the WSV3 configuration. You could go up to the top left and hit the program settings, or you can just do Control O. Then we'll go back to GIS system and then shape file layers. Now we want to turn back on that state lines file, which again that was S_11 AU16.shp. Now I want to go in and find our customized counties map layer file, and that may be titled whatever you titled it when you saved it, when you made that map. So now you're going to go in and find that one and turn that one off. So now your customized counties map layer should be off. So now we'll go back out of settings, and now we're going to do another image capture and save it where we saved the last file. So now we have the state lines and the county lines. So now we want to turn on the background. And one tip that I do have is, as you do this, you want to make sure you don't move the map around on WSV3, because otherwise when you go to make the map in either Photoshop or whichever program you're using, the lines within the different layers will not be able to align correctly, as there will be a size difference. So as for the background, we want to save that as an image, and now we have our background. So now we have all the different layers that we need from WSV3, so we can go out of there for right now. Now we want to go to Photoshop, and let's go ahead and bring in our background. And then we're going to open again, and we'll now bring in the counties layer. And if you're in Photoshop, it's probably going to open up as multiple tabs, and I will show you how to actually get it over, as we'll actually in the end bring it over here to the background, and I'll show you how to do that here in a second. The first thing we need to do is we need to actually get rid of this blue background. We want to make it transparent because in the end our background should actually be this. So in order to do that, and I'm not sure if Gimp actually has this tool or not, it might, or any other similar programs that are like this, but it's a program that allows you to select different parts of the picture. So we want to just select the outer blue edges. We don't want to delete the county lines at all. So we want to do that, and then that will allow us to then get a transparent background all around it. Now we want to then go up to select. If you're in Photoshop, it may be a little bit different depending on what program you're looking at, and then go deselect. So now we have our counties layer. So now we want to go in and we want to do a select all. You could go up to select all, or you could do Control A. And then you want to then go to either edit and copy, or you could do Control C. Then you want to go back to the background and do either edit and then paste, or you could do Control V. And then you may have to kind of align it, because depending on where your background is at, and this is just kind of my preference in terms of making it look a little bit more in line with the background itself, because I can kind of see the outline that lines up with the way the counties are drawn out. But for your purposes, or however you want it to be, you may not necessarily need to move the counties layer around too much. So now we have that in place. Now we're going to go in and open the state lines file. So we now have that one open, and just like the counties file, we want to do the same thing. We want to go through and we want to highlight all the different areas of blue, and we just want to see the state lines. Once you've done that, then you're going to hit delete to get rid of the background, and then go back up to select and deselect, and then select all, and then you can go edit and then copy, or Control C. Then we go back to the background, and then you can either do edit and then paste, or Control V. And again, see how it's a little bit misaligned, and we can just drag that over and line that up like so. Now, another point to make is that now we kind of have the counties layer sitting on top of the state lines, and it can kind of make it look a little bit off in some ways. So the thing that I would recommend is to go in, and depending on what program you're using, you might be able to do this, but I would go in and just go underneath of it and take out the lines that surround that area, because essentially your county's map already has those lines drawn there and you don't really need them. Alright, so once you're finished cleaning up your map and getting it aligned in the way that you want it to look, we'll be able to move on to our next step. But as we get ready to do that, I want to show you a little bit of an overview of what I did that I didn't include in the video, just to help save some time, which is basically just erasing some lines to help clean it up. I erased parts of the state lines, and the reason for that is because the county lines layer already has those lines there, and it would just be lines on top of lines, and it just doesn't look very clean in my opinion. So I took those extra lines away just to help clean it up, and you may need to do the same. So if you've already done that and you're ready to move on to the next step, that will now be working on the drop shadow portion. So in order to get going on that, the first thing we need to do is we need to go to the FX button down at the bottom. It may be in a different place depending on what version of Photoshop you're using, or if you're using a different program. You just want to go to the effects part of the program and make sure you have the layer of the counties layer highlighted, and then we will go to drop shadow and turn that on. We want to make sure that that is set to normal. And I would go with the 100% opacity, just gives it a bolder look. And then a distance of about 10. These settings might vary depending on how you like it. Just, you can set it to however you want it to be. And then a size of 2 is what I'm going to go with. And then I'm going to hit OK. And so now you can see we have the drop shadow there. Now, one thing I forgot to note before I closed out of that settings tab is if you don't like the way where the shadow is currently setting, you can actually move it around with the little angle tab, and you can move it either to the other side, more towards the bottom, more towards the top. If you don't want to use the little angle tab, you can also just click and drag it around and just move it to your desired spot. And then that is the drop shadow part. Now, the other thing we need to do to get the finished look is get rid of this blue background. Because essentially what we want is we want the background that you see all around the rest of the image. So in order to do that, we're going to turn the counties layer into a overlay. It makes it more transparent to where you can now see the rest of the background that you see overall in this image. Then we're going to go to fill, and we're going to make that 0%. So, and as you can see now, you still have your drop shadow, but now you're thinking, okay, well, the county lines are missing. Okay, so now we need to go back to our counties layer, and now what we're going to do is, if you still have it selected from earlier when we copied and pasted it over, you're going to want to go back up to select and do deselect, or you could do Control D. And then now what we're going to want to do is get our selection tool back out, and we're going to go through and just select all the counties. And then once you've done that, you will then hit the delete key on your keyboard, and you will clear it out. And now we have a transparent layer of just the county lines. Now we want to go back up to select and hit deselect, and then we want to go back to select again and hit all, and then edit and copy. Now we want to go back to our main background setup here and go to edit and paste. And then again, you'll probably have to align it accordingly. But this time you shouldn't have to do much in the way of erasing lines or anything of that nature. You may just have to adjust the drop shadow a little bit on that layer that we were working with the drop shadow to get it back to get it where you want it to be in case it's not aligned once you added those lines once again. And so once you have it set up the way that you want, that right there is particularly how you make the map with the drop shadow. Now you could add color contours for temperature purposes, or you could even do severe risk maps. And I'm going to do separate tutorials on those if that's something everybody is interested in. But as for this tutorial, this is going to be basically the end. I'm just in this video showing you how to make the map with the drop shadow, and that's where we're going to leave it for today. So I hope this helped you all out. If you have any questions, leave those down in the comments. Thank you so much as always for watching, and take care.